Welcome back, LCO fans, as we are here for the second series of the night. It's going to be arguably maybe the biggest series this week, in my opinion, Skimmy. It's going to be a big...
Yeah, it will be. It certainly will be a big one. With the roster shuffles, with the stakes of, okay, another big team up against Ground Zero, is the narrative that Ground Zero simply cannot be beaten, especially in a best-of-2 format. And to the same extent, what gets shown? Because if history serves us correctly, usually in a scenario like this, nobody wants to reveal anything. Because they go, well, we're probably going to verse each other in those best-of-5s anyway, so why give away all of our secrets now?
That's so true, but let's have a look at our first team. It is Antic, this beautiful, beautiful team. So gorgeous in their purple, looking so good. And there's the roster change we've been waiting for, Tally. And it's an interesting one.
It's absolutely an interesting one, and I think a lot of people would be confused about why we're seeing, Raze in the mid lane instead of, Destiny going to the mid and Raze playing the position that he's most comfortable with. But I think it is quite a good roster shuffle based on the meta right now. I think that Raze should be the most comfortable AD carry player, in the mid lane, because he's just so proficient on these AD carries, and he's going to be a player who's very familiar in the 1v1s, and I think that if they do find this AD carry versus AD carry matchup in the mid lane against Fido, that is where they will find a lot of success as the game goes on, and with Destiny in the bot lane, I think that, well, I'm very familiar with him. I know he is a player who's very proficient on a lot of champions, and I think that AD carry is just another thing he's going to be very comfortable doing.
2 AD carry stars versus another 2 AD carry stars as Ground Zero coming in hot as well. Oh, they're looking so good, and Skimmy, they're feeling fire because they have got every win thus far, and they're not slowing down at all.
Exactly, yeah, uncontested in that first spot, and made it very convincing in their 2-0 up against Bliss, right? So given that we've been looking at this as a 3-team league, the question does really have to be asked as to, with these roster shuffles, is that enough to try and bridge the difference with players going into off roles? I think really is now or never, given that if we talked about Tristana, the only person that played in the bot lane was Raze. Well, a lot of those champions are going to work in the mid lane too, and Fido's no stranger to the AD carries themselves, so I think we could be in for a bit of an interesting draft where so many AD carries get looked at, and Telly said, what, the magic number was like 5 in one draft? I think this could be a game where it might be 5 bans, even instead of the actual 5 champions played.
5 bans? I'm thinking 10 bans. Just get it all out. Just get them all out of there. They're going to be like, what do we play? They're like, how do we play this game now? But we'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be a good night. I think it's fantastic. I want to talk a little bit about Destiny, though. Coming back, Tally came out of retirement to just have a good time here. And I think that's something we have to talk about.
He was the Antic sub, so, he has been watching scrims, or participating in some way, so he's not completely out of the scene. Hasn't been, until recently playing solo queue, but has been a player who played a lot of Arena. He's a very, very high-rated Arena player, so could help him that he's played so many different champions. In Arena, you're not playing one role, you're playing a whole bunch of, a plethora of champions, so has the mechanics, still a player who's, very, very, has that veteran experience as well. So could be someone that really helps Striker in the ball. Having 2 supports is such a, a buff, I would say, to, really work with your team.
Oh, I just want to quickly highlight plethora. That's word of the day. That's a beautiful word, Telly. Well done. But instead of that, we're going to look at a plethora of kills in our latest graphic, which is the head-to-head in this top lane with Zoranis and TN. Absolute monsters. That's all you can say. 21 solo kills to 16. They are topping the charts, Skimmy.
They are best solo kills in the league, first and second. I think Zoranis got a big helping hand in his last series. I think he found in 8 or 9 kills in one game alone, which certainly inflated those stats a little bit, but there's no denying that these two have definitely put on a bit of a show. When we talk about the discussion as to the best top laners in the league, they would be included in that. So I'm very curious as to what kind of brand we get from these two, because you can see a lot of Camille coming out then from Tien. No teams have found an answer towards it, and when they have tried to get a little bit creative, he was the one to bring out the Nasus. So yeah, interested to see what the game plan will be, if it's lane dominance, if it's team fighting, if it's split pushing.
Yeah, I think the damage there as well, the damage per minute is like 831 for Zoranis 2, but 724, so it feels like Zoranis loves to just get his hands dirty. It's not just about being impactful in the solo lane, it is just, let's just fight. So I'm really excited to see how they're going to do it. Maybe it's a chair diff, Tally.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm really curious to see, as Bio, did drop in his interview that he feels like he is the best top lane in the league right now, and I think that these are the other two contenders right now for the best top lane in the league, and we finally get to see a matchup between a player like Tien, who's so comfortable blind picking the Camille. I think that Zarnes has the pool to be able to punish that, in weeks past. Not really, seeing that. I don't even think Bio really has the champion pool that is really good at dealing with the Camille, but I think Zarnes is that player to be able to match up to Tien.
I guess maybe before we get into interviews and all that, what would you say is the big thing for what's the counter to Camille? I think you mentioned it's picked a lot, banned a lot. What do you actually pick into this champion to disrupt it? Not just beat it, disrupt it.
We saw like a lot of Renekton and Jax bans to protect it in the past, right? They certainly seem to be like the go-to options, which are very relevant at this stage, but... yeah, those would be my two. I'm sure Tally's probably got a whole bunch more, given that you've had a top lane experience yourself.
I would say it's definitely you got to match it with your own fighter. You can't you can't pick that early game counter like a Lucian or something, because you do get to the side lane where you just die. You have to pick something that will match in the early game, match in the mid game, and be able to combat it on the side lane. So like the Jax, the Renekton in itself. I think that Jax is probably one of the better answers. With better team play, with better jungle intervention, you can find a lead, and as it's a matchup that is completely swung one way with a lead.
All right, well, with the plethora of top laners we have right now, if you had to pick, let's put them in order. Let's rank them best to worst. This is top three, so it's going to be Biopanther, Tien, or Zoranus. You got to rank them. Who's number one? Who's number two? Who's number three? Tally, I'll let you go first.
I think performance-wise, right now, it's hard to not put Tien number one. I think that he has just shown that he is such a powerhouse, and when he is enabled, he will carry pretty much every game. So I got to put him one. I think that Bio Zarnes is a tough toss-up for me, but I would, I think in recent performances, Bio has been playing better. I think he has a, better champion pool, and Zarnes has that, really, really wide champion pool. It has these really weird counters, and I think that is something that would, could edge out these other players for him, but right now, he's going to be in third for me.
Skimmy, what do you think?
I think it's, pretty much nailed on the head. I mean, it's going to be a case of Tally being a top laner, speaking like a top laner, and if it's not those players, it's always going to be Tapoon, but he's not in the discussion anymore, so...
Where is he?
Bring him back.
Come back.
We love to see it during the intro. I scream it. These boys scream it. I'm going to be haunted by it. But if you say his name 3 times in a mirror, he magically pops up on Twitter, so maybe just at Tapoon and see what happens.
It's like an LCO.
Add him on Twitter right now.
I would actually, I'm going to do like a counter choice of the top three for me personally. I'm going to change it up. I'm going to put Bio at number one.
Okay.
And I do actually back when he said he's the best in the league. The reason why is he's shown he can play any champion. Yes, Tien is looking absolutely fantastic, but we've seen him mostly on Camille. The diversity hasn't really been there for my liking, but you can put Bio on any champion and he is making it work. Either it's for the team or it's for himself. And I think that's the difference of a big player. But again, I want to put Zoranus up there too. I think he's tied with Tien, but we'll have to ask the man himself, because we actually have Zoranus on the call. He's got the finest chair in the league. He's just looking so comfortable on it, mate. How are you doing tonight?
Look, I'm doing all right. I'm kind of excited for the game today, even though it doesn't really matter, but good to get an ego boost going into playoffs.
Oh, I do love a good egos boost. But how are you feeling in tonight's matchup? Like, have you guys been doing too much, quite a bit against Ground Zero? You guys have been feeling confident in scrims?
Here and there, got some practice in. I mean, I'm honestly not too sure how today will go, but we're just looking at it as like playoffs practice, so regardless of the result, if we put a good showing, I think we'll be happy.
Yeah, nice. All right, well, I'll let Tally ask something for you.
And I guess I just want to talk about like your general position. We're seeing like these huge roster shuffles for you guys, and I think that I'm really excited for them personally, and I think that it was a good change. But I want to know, has your dynamic in the team shifted at all, or is it going to be the same Zarnes that we're really used to seeing in the weeks past?
I mean, honestly, it's probably similar to how it was before. I mean, our drafts will obviously be a bit different with our swaps coming in. But in terms of the champions, they'll be pretty much the same, but maybe, I'll have to play more of a certain style to facilitate other picks, which I'm happy to do.
And speaking champions, there is one pick that me and Skimmy have talked about in weeks past. I haven't really seen yet. Are we finally going to see the Gnar?
who knows? You know, if the draft calls for it, maybe it'll come out.
Soren and Snar is different source, man. It's so good. Actually, whilst we talk about new champions and different ways that you could look to try and play the game, given that Raze will be going into the mid lane, you'd assume that AD carries in this current meta are fantastic. The same could be said for you as well. We know that you've played a few of those in the past, and I was seeing more and more Zeri top lane as opposed to like Twisted Fate into Cassante, mostly. Is that a champion that you're dabbling around with? Or be going even further into the fold of like triple AD carries? Maybe not tonight, but maybe something to keep in the back of your mind for like these best of 3, best of 5s.
All I'll say is I did see Zays play the Zeri top, and I am definitely interested.
Ooh.
Yeah, you had to read between the lines on that one.
Well, we got to look at the top lane, right, as well. I think this is a big thing. Like, have you versed Tian in solo queue, and has it gone well? Like, is this a matchup we should really be watching tonight?
I mean, I have versed him, but honestly, I can't remember the last time I versed him in solo queue. I think it's been a while, actually. I mean, I think I'd focus more on the team play tonight. I don't really care like the 1v1 matchup like so much. I think Ground Zero is like a team that definitely struggles more with the team play and, you know, playing together for an objectives. They like to go for all their individual plays. So for our front, like, we're gonna look at doing stuff as a team and making sure to punish them when they look for those plays.
Mate, you're spilling all the secrets, but no, we love to hear it. It's good to give a bit of insight. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to see you get even more solo kills on Tian. Poor guy, he's going to have to struggle tonight. But good luck out there. Have some fun.
Thank you.
I should have asked to see the chair, dude. I was thinking about it the whole time.
It's doing its job. So you know.
Imagine like if it became a bet where like we had this really long split, and every week just the chair gets slightly different. Like, yeah, I just gave it a fresh lick of paint. You're like, nice, it's a blue metal chair. Like, yeah, I've got these like wooden armrests here, guys. We're just, you know, yeah, we're DIYing it.
I want to see someone play. You know those like camper chairs where you just like sink into them and you have like the drink. I want to see someone play one of those because you have no control of your posture.
I love that it's changing. Like, comes to a stool. Comes to like a pew from like a church, like just gets real scat
like
stuff that doesn't make any
Roche
sense.
Like bouncing, doing his cardio whilst playing. Like, can you imagine that, man?
No, dude, Carvin actually did that for a very long time. He played on the gym ball.
Yeah.
Really?
So
yeah,
it'd be hype. It'd be super hype.
Like, how would you? I don't actually know how I could actually do that. Like, because you'd be bouncing, wouldn't your arms be moving?
Well,
and you'd be trying to hit keys and
it forces good posture. Because like you're sitting up straight, so like it is, you know, a good thing. But I don't think you could sit comfortably for a very long time.
But you know what's important about it is that not only are you grinding LP, you're also grinding away at core strength. So it's just it's a 2-for-1.
True.
So like if you lose your game, you just bounce a little bit harder, balance a little bit better, and at least you're getting something.
It'd be so good for your mental, right? Like you wouldn't have to worry about LP. You're like, hey, look, we've still got gains. We still got gains.
You would just look down at yourself and be like, at least I'm still hot.
Yeah.
GG, you know.
Beach season,
classic
couldn't
Carvin.
come sooner.
Classic
God.
Carvin,
I
yeah.
hate being so hot. God.
He's always talking about how hot he is. Yeah, true.
Makes me swoon. But no, like, I'm actually curious to see. We'll have to ask our next interview when they come online for what chair they're actually in. Because, again, we're all in very similar chairs, right? I think, Tally, we might actually have the same chair, just a different type. Like, but I think, Skimmy, you got the better one out of all of us. Like, there's
Well,
the
this is actually an old legacy gaming house chair that I got from Carbon. So there you go.
Yeah, Carly's Secret Labs, very comfy.
Yeah. And I got Yasuo. Look, I like yours. Yours was comfortable, Skimmy. I'm jealous. But no, let's get into the next interview as we have the man on fire looking to burn away at your jungle. It is Shernfire. Woo! Look at you, mate. What chair are you sitting in?
Shit, office chair. Office chair.
Go hard.
Look,
Day
good
in a
posture.
life's work. Yep.
Mate, it's looking good. Mate, how are you feeling for tonight? You guys have been sitting at the top. You've been looking so comfortable. Are you guys concerned going up against Antic?
I'm also hyped to verse Destiny again. It's been a long time, so yeah. Interesting to verse Destiny since last time we versed, he was on Chiefs, I was on Dire Wars, so yeah.
Yeah, that's a throwback. I think that was actually OPL, if I recall. I did a little bit of research into it, and it's like quite a long time ago because he's been overseas. So like he's come out of retirement. Are you looking to just like absolutely smash him tonight? You're like, oh, there's Destiny. Cool, hard target.
Yes, I do want to pat my KDA. I want to play Zara tonight. Hopefully they ban it. And then, yeah, they beat the Zara. Good practice. Yeah.
We heard it, guys, over at Antic. Don't ban Zyra, please. We want to see it. We've been waiting for it. Don't do it.
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, it's definitely gone. Yeah, Tally.
I mean, you did mention Zyra, but I guess I want to do a bit of a patch check-in with you because, you know, we've seen nerfs the majority of like what you consider the meta junglers right now. Do you think the current champion pool has like shifted or requires an adjustment at all, or do you think it's like quite similar to what we were seeing on last patch?
It's pretty similar. I think brand is the same. I would say all the weird AP picks you can still play. They play like Morgana in Korea, or like Cuz played Morgana in Korea, so you can still, anything that builds Faded Ashes, you can still pick.
And I know when this champion came out, you were a bit of a merchant of it, but you know, we haven't really seen you play it recently. Do you think Ivan is strong?
No, I think people are getting baited really hard. It's unfortunate. It's like they see the 244 clear, but they don't realize on your second sequence. I don't think it is, because on the second sequence, your camps don't spawn until like the 5:30 timer, which basically you're left with a lot of uptime. So yeah, if you do get ganks between that 1 minute time where your camps aren't respawning, it's good. But the anime jungler understands how Ivan works. He's going to be up a full level on you before you know it, because you got no camps, right? On your second rotation.
And this is why it's nice to hear from someone who's so good at his role, guys.
Yep. That's, yeah.
Good for a reason. Well, I suppose my question, sort of speaking still about the meta and the jungle as a whole. Your second most played in your career has been the Sejuani. We're seeing a whole bunch of that internationally, but we've been very adverse to it down under. I know you've been playing a whole bunch of these AP junglers. Is the Sejuani ever a consideration? Is there ever a situation where you're thinking, guys, I'll be the facilitator, I don't want to be the star of the show today?
Nah, I always want to be the superstar. I want to be real. Like, bro, come on. Why would I? It's like the same logic Canyon has. Why would I play Sejuani? Why can't I just play all these AP champs? But there is a time and place for that, of course.
I suppose I'll sprinkle in one quick question as well there, Pike.
Yeah,
is there any, any concern around the fact that you have been on this massive win streak? We always hear about players saying getting a loss is good to try and make sure that you keep yourself humble and in check. Is there any concern about, being on such good form that you might get caught off guard going into, these playoff series?
No, I think when practice is hard, I mean, the live games are easy. And also, like, our wins haven't been, like, complete stomps. It's like, we literally almost lost both games against Bliss at some point. So, yeah, I think tonight, even if we 2-0, I'm sure they'll put up a fight and there's going to be some resistance. So, I would expect to improve off that, regardless win or lose.
Yeah, perfect. Good take.
That's the most humble and beautiful answer from the man on fire himself, Shern. Thank you so much for joining us on the desk. It's always a joy having you. Good luck out there. Let's get you, Zyra. Get those plants to work.
Thanks, guys.
Pray.
I'm going to keep doing that. So the reason I keep doing that, you know the host from Hunger Games? And he always screams out.
I haven't watched it in a very long time.
Yeah, the girl on fire. I can't say that about Shern, but I can still say fire, so I'm just going to keep doing that for him. It's just way too easy. Well, let's have a look at our side select for these teams, where they want to go, what they want to do. Both looking blue, Tally. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that, Shern said himself in the interview, he wants that Zyra, and I feel like if it's not on the blue side, he probably won't get it. But, as I said in that last series, I think that Rumble is another very contested pick, and it will probably we're probably going to see it being banned by the red side both games.
Well, Skimmy, do you think, okay, Zyra or Rumble, which is better?
I feel like you'd be much more inclined to go towards the Zyra. I feel like, especially for these teams, given the fact that Schönfire is just that good in the jungle and can definitely carry, I think, Tien would be very comfortable to say, yeah, just put me in anything else and I'll carry. Like, just give me the poppy, whatever, I don't care. So I would imagine if it came down to it, it'd probably be the jungle that would get precedence.
Look, both these teams, both set to blaze onto the rift. I'm going to keep sticking to fire because it's way too much fun, but it's time to burn through those channel points right up there, put them in, make sure you're putting out those points for your favorite team and looking after them too, because they deserve your support. They want it. They love you guys for it. Why not do it? And in that, let's have a look at our predictions in this series coming forward for you two. And again, not too much of a surprise going on here, Tally.
Okay, so, as I did say in the weeks past, I got my, pre-predictions in, I fill out the whole split. With this roster change, I think I might have swapped to a draw. I think it is very curious to the potential that this has, and I'm very excited to see. I feel like if Raze does get through the laning phase, which is the hardest part of a role swap, being an AD carry in that mid game, when all of a sudden you have all this extra golden experience, you can really take over these games. So I'm curious to see what he can do.
Yeah, well, Skimmy, what do you think?
Well, yeah, obviously we done these predictions weeks ago. Come into this one, get thrown off by the fact that we got a different roster for Antic. I think similar to Tally. I don't know if I'd flip-flop to a 1-1 just yet, but I'd be really keen to see a mid lane matchup of Fido versus Raze playing AD carries. And be all right, you're in my domain, but this is your lane, and get to see how that dynamic really functions. I think that could be probably at least my focus to keep an eye on for this game. I'm sure everyone's going to be looking at Destiny and saying, how does a double support lane work, given that we've got the likes of Mammoth going a double AD carry bot lane. Now we get to see the inverse of that.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's a little bit of hesitation in your voice there, Skimmy, too. Tally's thinking the tie. No, Pike has no doubts. GZ take it. They're going to walk all over it. No chance. It's just going to happen. The fire's going to burn right through. Game's ready to go. I'm not even going to be here anymore. Let's just jump into it. Have some fun, boys. Be fire for me.
Oh, yes, there you go, Pike. You've locked in your Zyra first pick. They've listened to us. They've actually banned away the Ivan. Shen said, nah. They say, yeah, it's gone.
He was tricking us the whole time. No, okay, maybe this is tech. You're like, oh, they're listening in on the interview, Skinny. We gotta bait them out a bit. Gets rid of the Rumble, which is expected. Tristana expected. Don't really want to give the strongest AD carry to one of the best AD carry players in our league. In Raze, so we see that one being gone. Ezreal takeaway from Ground Zero is, I think, very nice, because I think that would have been a high priority flex pick for Antic. But once again, we are seeing the Corki being left up, and I think that without the pairing or the match of the Tristana being there in the mid lane, there's a very nice pickup for Antic pairing that up with the Zyra.
Certainly should be a lot of aggression for them to play around with, and certainly the harass from afar to make sure that Leona doesn't get too big for her boots and get a little bit angsty to try and make things happen on the map. This is what we kind of expected, though. All these AD carries being looked at, banned away. Maybe your magical number 5 will be hit on this occasion. But I'm curious to sort of see what the brand of this bot lane looks like for Antic, right? How do they want to try and maneuver this one? Are we going to see craziness like, a Senna Seraphine? Are we going to be saying something a little bit more, on par, like the Nautilus?
And there's the Nautilus, just doing the Leona Nautilus handshake. Did have options to go for stuff like, the Peel champs and the Braum, but pairing that with the Zyra, they want that lockdown. They want the lockdown for the Ezreal to make sure that wherever this Ezreal goes, which I assume will probably be the mid lane, because there is just no, real AD carries left in the... Oh,
well, it's not now.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so there is the Akshan. I personally think this is very Corki favored because, Phosphorus Bomb is extremely hard to trade back into, and Akshan just doesn't have that, same trading power unless he is able to all in his lane. And I think that Corki is one of those champs who can go Ninja Tabbies with that tier, use the fact that he gets 5 Jack stacks to get, that extra longsword damage on that first base, and really outpower these champs in the 1v1.
I had a bit of a funny fact check actually on when the last time would have been for Corki to be played. For Raze, it was all the way back in 2016. Now, that's a long time before me. Is that still when Corki was considered an AD carry? Is this all pre-rework?
Yeah, I think, after the package came through, he wasn't considered a bot laner anymore. He was just a solo laner at that point. So, yeah, I think, back in, 2016 would have been the last time Corki was an AD carry.
That's crazy. That is crazy to think that we've nearly gone full circle, nearly 10 years on, and it's going to come back into life and, appear on that page. Good to see Destiny back in action. As you mentioned, you can see the Draku's very clearly in the zone, yawning, getting himself in for this one. Just a bit of a freebie. You play Nautilus, you land the hook. Job well done. Jack's to be banned away by Grand Zero. The interesting one has to be this Fiddlesticks ban. We've only seen one team play it. That was Fury, but maybe a little bit of Scrim Tech coming in.
Yeah, I'm actually, I think that the Fiddle is good scouting by Antic because, looking at Ground Zero's side, what, is that AP champ that Sean wants to play? I think, with the brand being up, probably going to be his handshake in the jungle, but I think that is very Zyra favored just because of how the champ is able to outrange and while, still committing the amount of damage you're able to with the, seed spitters and the poke from all these plants that Zyra just spams out. So, it's quite a good matchup for the Zyra. But Ground Zero are going to be very happy just handshaking the, mage jungle full clear meta because that is what Shern is so comfortable with doing.
Absolutely, you got to make sure you try and deny that away from him, and at the same statement, try and match, because he is going to be blitzing through that jungle at lightning pace. Brand up against Zyra, two incredibly proficient junglers, and certainly going to be keeping all these other lanes on check. I was a little bit concerned there, seeing the Caitlyn hover, I was thinking, are we finally going to see it come back to life of this triple AD carry meta on a side? Maybe a little bit of extra engage threat is warranted.
Yeah, and I'm also curious to what the bot lane is going to be, you know, with there being so many AD carries being picked or taken away. Zarya is, I think that when I think of what Destiny's pool would be, going to be the champion that is quite comfortable. I think having mobility is so important when you're unfamiliar with the role, so nice that he does get that pickup in the bot lane. And what are they going to really want to round out this comp with? Is it going to be Zarnus on a carry, or is it going to be him playing a facilitator? And that's not something you really see from Zarnus, you know, finally picking up what you would consider like the facilitator in the Gragas, because it's the champion who doesn't really do anything besides just nullifying the lane and maybe being a block pick to a certain champion that they think that Tien could pull out.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too concerned about the fact that Tien certainly has a big champion pool, but just chooses to hone it in on a couple in particular, and Poppy certainly at the top of the table of that discussion there. And to your point as well, I mean, if you look at the last few games that Zarnus has played, they have, for the most part, all been carries. I mean, you consider Skarner to some degree a carry as well. The guy is an immovable object, to be quite frank. But Aatrox is the play, is the answer. It's the first time we're going to get to see Tien play at this split. And if that's anything to go by from what we saw other teams utilize it, I mean, we always look at that Prey montage clip. The healing is crazy.
Well, in isolation, Aatrox is good into Gragas Skimmy. I think that he is terrible into the comp that Antic have brought forward. I think that, you know, you want a lot of melee champs on the enemy team to really make this champ shine. So if he does get hit by a Nautilus Hawk into the root, you know, double 80 carry will explode you. So I expect to see Tien go for that, you know, full lethality build, really play for those flanks. And if he doesn't find a one-shot to these carries, he is very susceptible to just being caught out of position and blown up.
So there is some concerns for that one, whether or not we're going to get a full PvE style of Aatrox instead then to try and keep this Gragas in the lane, in the matchup, as opposed to finding some success with those bombers. We've seen Akshan be a fan favorite, a specific pick for Fire many times before, the ability to try and sneak off into the shadows and pop out, and not to forget the ultimate as well, and the passive to revive those members. Do you feel like this is the way to say, okay, in isolation against Corki, it's rough, but if we're focusing on team fighting, that could be the difference here?
I think that the champion is just a, you know, they need an AD mid laner who, you know, can function well in this game. Akshan gets that job done. Is a champion who is able to get priority, and if he does get a lead, can rotate around the map with that stealth, with that, you know, swing to be able to make sure he finds these kills in the early game to really snowball, because he's a champion who can absolutely take over games and does have that clutch factor in these, you know, mid-game, late-game teamfights, because the revive can completely take over a game.
But it certainly can, as we load ourselves into the Rift for the second time tonight here, Tally. One final best of two as we get one step closer to those playoffs. Grand Zero on your right, in the red, undefeated 6-0. Nobody can touch them. As for Antic, they're already guaranteed an upper bracket position. They're locked in third, and they're hoping to do battle with a revitalized roster.
Yeah, and I'm curious to, you know, how this jungle matchup's going to function, because in champion strengths, I would give the advantage to the Zyra over the Brain. I think that the champ just functions a bit better into the enemy comp. Plus, just has an overall faster clear and clears much faster as the game does speed up. But, you know, in saying that, we know how familiar Shun is with these AP junglers and how to do these clears properly and how to, you know, create leads. We haven't really seen Foreigner have, you know, any of these AP junglers so far. You know, we've really known him for like the Viegos, the Zins, and the Vi's, and being this AD engaged player. So curious to see, does he know like how to do these clears really efficiently? Does he know how to take over these games? Does he know how to, you know, be an absolute carry threat for his team?
Well, that's exactly it, because we were expecting coming into this one, it was going to be a battle of two different meta folds, right? The heavy AD focus with the AP options found in the mid lane instead, and I think maybe that comes down to the fact that Incursio was very much keen for the AP mid options, and they were really the only team in the league that wanted to try and push this style of play compared to everybody else. So let's see now if they are quote-unquote meta-conforming, what it all does decide to be. As for the bot lane, the classic wrestle and rush to get level 2, get control, and get active.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what this bot lane is going to be like, though, because, you know, when we look at the dynamic of both lanes, Zeri is just not a good early game champ in comparison to the Ezreal. So Dracu is someone who's known for being extremely aggressive, always wanting to hook forward, always wanting to be the first to go in. Can't really find that same strength in these 2v2s because Ezreal's just so much stronger than Zeri.
Really nice dash away though from Destiny, so much so it's actually going to force out the flash from Kurek. The Ignite was ticking, he was getting dangerously low. One more would have done it, Kurek! Oh, he's just gone back in. Draku's going to flash to try and get it. They will trade it out.
But
it will be Lemus that gets the kill. He's going to get himself a second if Draku's unable to try and find some crazy shenanigans. There it is. And that dicey bot lane blows wide open for Ground Zero.
Yeah, and see, I don't even think that comes down to a player gap. That's just the champions and how strong Ezreal is. He even has the TP, so he doesn't have the heal or the barrier. It's just that Zeri is not a strong early game champion in comparison to the Ezreal. And Ground Zero know their strength, finally hit that level 2, go for the all-in, and they do such a good job to pick up the double kill onto Lemus.
It was so close to going the other way, but those small inches, certainly at this level here, are going to be taken advantage of, and that's the best possible start then for Lemus to showcase why he's certainly having the split of his life right now. As for the mid lane, you can see junglers poking their head in. Not going to find much at this stage, but Fido is able to push back Raze. But he is able to respond back with that Phosphorus Bob and send him right back home.
Shunify is walking in blind here. We do see the claps coming out of Raze, and there's going to be no response from Fido as he is recalling.
He's going to force out the flash, not going to decide to follow that one, jumping into Fog of War. Not worth the risk, and not worth giving anything away at this stage, but it's a nice bit of retaliation there. And a chance to see what Foreigner's AP options look like. Back to the bot lane we go once again. Tier already complete, no Sheen, but double longsword. It's a flying start.
Yeah, a very good start for the Ground Zero side. I think this mid lane dynamic is good to see that Raze, knows how to play into these really aggressive mid laners, doing a good job to get through what you consider the hardest part of these Akshan lanes, which is that early game where he can walk up to you, use that boomerang throw, pair that up with the shield and the PTA proc, and just do such a good job at bullying you out. But Corki is all about that first space, finding the tier and the defensive items where it's going to be a Ruby Crystal or a Cloth Armor if he does want to go for the stabbies, and just, out-muscling people with your base damage.
You're having to try and lean on that sooner rather than later because you can look at all these lanes. They're all suffering a little bit from this early game pressure. Raze constantly getting forced on back. We checked in with top lane briefly a second before. And it's Zoranis with little HP, 0 mana, chugging away to try and get some of that regen, but really getting denied a lot of this underneath that tower.
Yeah, so Foreigner, spending time covering his bot lane, whereas, Schoenfire always clearing. So he's going to see he's already up 2 camps just based on the fact that Foreigner is sitting in this bot lane because he expects that Schoen is going to look for a gank or correct might be aggressive. But just respect coming out of the Ground Zero side and Schoen just finding a lead by doing absolutely nothing.
Well, that is his, favourite play, and we've certainly seen in series where he gets subbed out for everyone. It's a case of him being a little bit more aggressive on the same champion as opposed to this full farm clear just because it works for him. There's no need to try and change it. Doesn't get punished as a result. Saving grace might be the fact that no wards were placed in those brushes, so Foreigner spent a fair bit of time here not to find it. He's going to be forced away in the end. Schoenfire says, all right, I'm farmed up, nothing to take. It is time to look for that gank, and he's going to play fancy feet here with Raze to see can I land that stun or not. Fido then slingshots his way into action. That at least means that gank was worthwhile.
Yeah, a bit of a pressure absorbed there by Raze. Nice sidestep by him to dodge out on that, major damage, which is the Pillar of Flame. Stun doesn't connect, so it's going to be very easy for him to get out of there. Has that fleet, so he's going to be able to sustain up in lane, pair it up with the absorbed life, and even though he was ganked there, we're see him with that health advantage being gained back, and could be a position for him to get a bit of an advantage in this lane.
Speaking of advantages, I'm curious about TPs being an advantage. I might hold that point for a second here, because as the Phosphorus Bomb lands, that's the chance to then Valkyrie forward! Oh, that auto attack was traveling. And it wasn't lethal, but it was damn near close.
Yeah, if that big one landed, that would have been a solo kill picked up for Raze. And this isn't a champion that you would think he'd be comfortable playing into. The Akshan isn't one that pops up too much in the bot lane, but does find himself blowing that flash in the 1v1 after absorbing that gank, and he might be able to use this pressure in the 1v1 to impact his top side. But both mid laners are extremely low.
They certainly are. No ability to try and intervene and help out with this top lane acquisition of these grubs. They've been aggro, but none have been successfully picked up so far. Foreigner being a menace across the wall. Raised low, but has decided to group up. Fido decides, I'll stay in the mid lane. The full combo drops on Zoranis. He flashes away to safety, baits them on in, and Schoenfire simply will die. Surrounded by 4. Tien, yeah, you're strong. And yeah, Aatrox has some pretty good healing with the World Enter, but not that much.
What a flash out of Raze. I'm not that's very impressive, Skimmy. The fact that he decides not to flash away from that fight, but he flashes forward, anticipating Tien being aggressive onto him. Gets the kill onto Schoen, picks himself up the kill, and that's going to be Steel Cats for himself. And, going to this replay, we do get to see this one. Zoranis doing such a good job to bait this one out, but Raze playing his timing really well, flashes forward instead of back, outplays Tien completely as he tries to predict the flash, and he picks himself up 2 kills for his team.
Really, really nicely done, as you highlight there, and a fantastic start for Antic to try and respond to the 2 early kills picked up by Limas. Very early is that of Draku leaving to assist elsewhere. Same could be said then for Kurek, 2 incredibly safe and mobile AD carries that get to fend for themselves, but it's a great chance for them to showcase that, look, just because you got those 2 kills, Limas, this game is far from over.
Yeah, absolutely, but there isn't too much of an explosion happening right now in this game, even though we do see those 2 kills happening on the top side. There's no real advantage for Zoranus. A lot of the gold, it is spread out on the team. Like, unfortunately, Draco was the one to pick up some of that gold, so, you know, nice for him. He's going to be able to get the Warmogs earlier in the game, and I didn't realize how broken that item was, Skimmy. Because, you know, I always see a lot of people rushing, and I was like, oh, you know, even though the item is nice, there are scenarios where you should be going the Locket, you should be going for stuff like the Frozen Heart. But then I realized it gives you 15% out of combat move speed.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
The move speed for me is the most broken part of it. We've talked at great lengths before, haven't we? Just how good and how hard it is to quantify movement, but just the ability to rotate quicker, especially as these supports, these engaged supports, mind you, second to none. My question before, if we get a chance to talk about it, is the fact that, yeah, we have triple TPs versus the 2 on the side of Antic, and whether or not that's going to be a big discussion point as to how Ground Zero want to try and, you know, work towards a mid and late game.
Yeah, I think that is a really, really nice tool for Ground Zero to have. Usually you wouldn't run TP on the bot lane because you really need the combat summoner to be able to navigate some of these all-in lanes. But Limas has that TP, so has the ability to, you know, fast swap if there is an objective top side that his team wants to play for. He can just, you know, clear a wave, TP top side. He can, you know, counter gank as well, which is something that we don't really see anymore. Back in the day, TP AD carry was very popular. We were really used to seeing these really good players teleport to sides to, you know, counter gank pressure happening. And we see Schoenfire going for a bit of evade onto Foreigner, but he does have that range advantage.
Uh-oh. Aggro in the bot lane, though, as Lightning Crash comes out to play. Destiny wants to get aggressive and wants to try and force something out. True Shot Barrage going to land. Actually pads onto 2, which is nicely done. As Kurek misses the Zenith Blade. The hook also, he tries to thread the needle with the minion dying, and the hook therefore landing, and Limas is really hoping that he can survive. Level 6 is found just a fraction quicker. They're going to all in. He's missed the hook! Is that what sets them apart? It is! I don't believe it. That's an absolute tragedy. The kill gets the XP, gets Kurek 6, gets them to turn it around, and that should be 4 kills for Ezreal.
That was their window, Skimmy. That was all on Antic. They had the tools, they had the combat summoner versus, you know, the TP and Limas, but they do not find that hook onto Limas, and he does such a good job to, you know, land these crucial mythic shots onto Destiny and kill him before he can get that execute onto him himself. Yeah,
that really, really hurts. That really was the moment. And you're really thinking, surely, given that they have the teleport, you should be trying to get a little bit more aggressive. Yes, it's the Zeri, maybe not the most well-equipped to try and punish at this early stage, but that does hurt. That was your window back here, and now a Trinity Force in back-to-back series. 10 minutes on the dot, these Ezreals are popping off.
Yeah, these Ezreals are absolute powerhouses in these series tonight, Skimmy, so have to see, are they going to, you know, continue to put the foot on the, you know, the lever to just completely take over this game, or, you know, with Limas not having summoners and being, you know, someone who could fall down when the step charge does come up, do they want to play for a swap and, you know, use that priority they have to, you know, secure objective on the other side of the map?
Run it back again to see how it all started off originally. It was a nice hook, and then the Lightning Crash was fantastic. There was this big rush, right, to get level 6, and you're thinking, because Draku found it, the job was done.
Yeah, and I think that pretty much every little thing that Limas did here, where he lands the True Shot Barrage, lands a bit of some of these Qs on the exit, just this chip damage that he was doing before the engage came out of Draku was the reason why he was able to find these kills out here. But, you know, really unfortunate, Draku doesn't land the dredge line because, you know, you would think that with the knock up from the ulti, it's a secure thing, but he does not have the vision onto Limas, so he's kind of guessing a bit where it did land.
Yeah, flash blind hook, no vision, as you say, and unfortunately went the wrong direction. It's a 50-50, didn't land on heads that time around, and that doesn't feel good in the grand scheme of things. 3 grubs, though, went the way initially towards Antic. Similarly now, Schoenfire uncontested is going to get the next 3, so a gentleman's agreement between the 2 sides as we start to look to, you know, phase our way out of traditional lane setups. You can see Fido lurking in the shadows, once again utilizing that full kit that Akshan has available for him. But
no flash.
Yep, Draku's angry. He says, you've embarrassed me once, you won't get away with it a second time. This time, however, though, there is a tower to deny the hook, but you can't prevent the Zyra knock-up. And they'll answer back with a 1-for-1. Well, actually, it's a denial, so Destiny's probably not too upset.
Yeah, really nice arcing shift by Limas to get around the turret to make that hook very hard for Draku, but, you know, there is that different hitbox between the terrain and the champion, so he's able to curve that one around the turret, finds the hook onto, you know, Limas, but unfortunately Destiny doesn't have access to the E, which would allow him to, you know, auto through the turret, so he has to trade himself to be able to pick up that 1-for-1.
Might see ourselves in another situation where it's a case of just play safe, lol, but you're surrounded by 3 members. They decided in the end, you know what, we don't want to make sure that Raze is the focus. Recalling on Vision, they're really waiting till the very last second. The full combo dropped on Shern's face, and there is no answering back to that one.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's very underrated to see, Skimmy, is that, you know, after the Corki changes, the Valkyrie gained a lot of...
He took no chances of that one. Panic flash away.
It always caught us off guard there. I thought he was going to walk back into that one. But, you know, as I was saying, Valkyrie gained a lot of base damage. So, you know, seeing that used as an offensive tool is very nice on the Corki. Because a lot in the past, you would think, oh, you only use it to escape. It does, you know, like a measly like 80 damage. But it has very high base damage now. And it's something that you can use as an offensive tool to pick up these kills.
Absolutely. I mean, every bit of damage counts, certainly in these early stages, and it's not a need to always greed for the gap closing or the potential disengage. It was a case of, let me just do as much as I can and hope, just hope, that maybe Schoenfei's distracted by old mate Boris the shopkeeper. He's going to be 0-2, not a familiar scoreline, but certainly one that Schoenfei's found himself in the past and has always managed to remain relevant. Always found a way back into the game, but a flying start here for Foreigner, it has to be said. Their first pick was Desira, and he's 2-0-2.
Yeah, and I think Foreigner is one of those players who has, you know, these very quiet performances, but he's an extremely consistent player who just pretty much always does his job and is able to, you know, fulfill the role that his team needs. And his role in this game is to, you know, farm up and become that player who can absolutely take over the mid game. And he's doing such a good job on this champion. Even though we do see Lemus with that 4-kill scoreline right now, there is no gold lead for his side, and that is probably thanks to Foreigner right now.
Well, that's it, right? You know, 14 minutes in was the turret plates fall on down. To see ourselves in a deadlock like this is pretty impressive, given the scorelines that you're seeing right here. Whether or not we will get treated to a cheeky 20-minute on-spawn Baron being soloed by Azara, that's another question entirely. But to your point, it is Foreigner that has the most gold in the game for Antic, only just slightly behind is Raze, doing a fantastic job for his mid-lane debut.
Do see the Dragon being pulled here, and a lot of the Ground Zero members are on the top side, so it's probably just going to be an objective given over to them. They're very happy to trade us for the Rift Herald because there isn't much chip damage onto these turrets right now, but based on this game state right now, Skimmy, I gotta give the advantage to Antic just because I think their comp functions a bit better from an even game state, and I think a lot of their champions are better at range, whereas, you know, the Aatrox and Leona from behind just cannot do the same thing that we see from these Antic champs.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the concerns about the Aatrox very early on into that draft, and they certainly do still remain relevant right here and now. Unfortunate there on Shelly resetting. Whether or not that gives a chance for Antic to respond, it doesn't seem to be the case. They don't really show any signs of interest. But now we see a cheeky 1v1, and, well, I'll tell you what, Lemus instantly answers back and lands every skill shot.
Yeah, I don't think Destiny wants to take that 1v1. We saw what happened last time. Nady Carry tried to fight a Triforce Ezreal Distal in the game. It was not pretty, so, you know, just throwing out the ult to do a bit of a scare tactic, try to create a bit of advantage for himself, but fortunately, a lot of damage coming out of Lemus there. Gonna base, gonna be able to pick up his item probably on this recall and be so strong.
Very strong, as are the rest of the team now, actually. Really good timing for both sides at 15.5 to find themselves either that very first item or at least the boots upgrade and some spare change used to elsewhere. And it feels like we are working our way towards, you know, that big objective opening that really sets the tone for what this game is like. A very different, you know, scoreline compared to what we saw in the first series. This one a lot more measured.
Yeah, definitely a lot more of a measured game, and I think that in a slow game state like this, this is where the Zyra is, and it's champs like the Ezreal who can, you know, poke from range, really get the shine. And I think that Ezreal might be the only champion who can really threaten the backline of Antic if this game continues on, because, you know, Brand is quite a low-range champion. Akshan, also a champion who needs to dive in, and I think that when you start to dive in, Aatrox, Akshan, Leona, that is when Zyra really pops off.
Certainly does, right? You know, case of you've committed to this play, you're going to be soaking up all this damage from those plants, empowered or not by the ultimate is another question, but it really does put a lot of emphasis on Lemus then to be a relevant force from range, and certainly is the case right now. He's the only person on their team with kills, so maybe that does give, you know, a little bit of rest assurance to the Ground Zero fans out there.
Yeah, but we are seeing Ground Zero being, you know, aggressive in these silence. I keep talking about how they aren't too comfortable going into this team fights, but they do have priority in 3 lanes just thanks to them playing a bit more confident. Tien doesn't feel too pressured from a Zyra gank because there is no CC coming out of the Corki, and he is going to be able to win that 1v1 if that does happen. So a lot of priority coming out of silence, and probably a you know, lane deployment you might see fixed, but the bomber does come out of Zoradus, but a nice flash response from Fido.
Very nicely done there, as it looked like a bit of an awkward situation, but either way, prevented himself from falling on down. And Ground Zero then take that opportunity with the lane flips intact to say it's a 1v3 in mid lane. That tower is exposed and will be our second one we'll pick up successfully. Antic, unfortunately, unable to answer back with a tower of their own just yet, making it even easier for Ground Zero to find ways to break open this lead and make sure that this deadlock is finally coming to an end.
A 17-minute upgraded Mirror Mana paired with the Triforce and the cooldown boost. This guy's an absolute monster right now, Skimmy, and we saw how much damage that True Shot Barrage already did, and how much priority they have on these side lanes. It's going to be a very tall task for Antic to be able to get back into this game state. They are strong, but I think if Ground Zero do continue to play well like this, it's going to be a very, easy game for them to keep picking up these advantages all over the map.
Well, it certainly does seem to be that case as it stands, and I suppose the luxury is that these next two major objectives have a little bit of an overlap in a 30-second separation between the two. That's still at least 90 seconds away, and whilst that is the case, Ground Zero can continue to farm up and showcase that they do have the lead, and Antic have to play reactively. The question does become, though, with the first Dragon going Antic's way, do Ground Zero feel pressured? Do they feel it's a necessity to rush these Drakes, to deny them at least, and buy themselves an extra 5 minutes?
I don't think there's any clear late game advantage to either team, because I think it's going to come down to who plays better. Both teams have very similar double AD carries, mage junglers, frontline top laners, and these melee supports. Very, very similar dynamics about how these comps will play, and it's just going to come down to who finds the engage, who has the setup. And I think that with Ground Zero constantly finding priority in all these lanes and playing for each other so well, it will be them.
Let's see then if any more action will be found as we get closer and closer to those objectives then on spawning, but still does ring true that Ground Zero are the one running around the map, getting it done, finding the vision, finding the play, and forcing Antic to respond. It just takes one slight overstep, slight misjudgment as to how much of a lead you do have or how much control of the map you possess for Antic to answer back. He already highlighted just how much strength Foreigner should have given his current game state as well. 4 stacks in the dark still very quickly could just become a Medjai's if the game warrants it. There's the comeuppance. And unfortunately, it does get all soaked up there by the tower. And Akshan, as a result, says, hang on a minute, I thought I was jumping on you. But there you go, Antic get the response.
Yeah, a curious setup by Ground Zero there. The comeuppance always going to be blocked by the tower there, so I'm curious to why Ground Zero was so aggressive on that setup, especially if you don't have flash. And there is a Draco in front of you, and we know how happy he is to throw out these dredge lines if you're not respecting him.
Well, just take small little missteps like that, and they slowly eke their way back in, down by 1,500. Dragon is up and available for them now, but neither side in a position to even look towards that one. Next Herald up in 10, and that might be what we're all ramping our way towards with the raised TP committed to the top side to defend. Certainly seems that that is the next one on the cards, but with still the vision line there to favor Ground Zero. It's going to take a few members to hold hands and group up as 5.
Yeah, I don't really expect too much priority from either team to go towards these dragons, because I think that the gold and resources in general are much more important when you have, 3 carry comps. We see the mage jungle with the double AD carries. No one wants to drop farm to be able to group up for this dragon, so we see not much priority going towards that, and we'll probably go over to the Ground Zero side if Tien keeps or maintains this priority in that bot side, and pair that up with Lemus on the mid wave, who now is working towards his 3rd item in the Bloodthirster or the Shojin, I believe. It will make him so strong.
I think that's the major concern at this point, right, is the fact that if there is that weirdness of you've had a 3rd item before Destiny's even completed the 2nd, then we're in a dangerous territory, right? You can see that he's farming up an absolute storm, trying to get his way towards that Runans. At that point, yeah, you have so much wave clear that certainly you can look to try and keep Ground Zero at bay in a very controlled fashion, but Ground Zero are looking for blood. They're on the hunt. They're not afraid to, entertain any ideas that Antic throw their way, and certainly not concerned by any, the Zarya could lock us down, we are, so short range. Yeah, wherever they go, even Shelly just getting it done without a passenger.
Yeah, and even though the gold isn't, too one-sided, we're only seeing it roughly as 2,000 gold lead, the item differences right now, where the strength lies for Ground Zero, is just so one-sided. A lot of these major items are being completed, and a lot of the, the strong members of the Antic are being matched in their counterparts from the Ground Zero side, so even though it is quite a close game state, we're not seeing a lot happen. It's probably one of our closer games of the split so far. Antic just don't have, those range tools to be able to return the damage that's happening to them, because Lemus is a 1v5 machine right now.
Certainly is a 1v5 machine. Very difficult then for the likes of both Draco and Zoranus to lock him down, even Foreigner, for any kind of extended period. But that would be the focus. The only person with a relevant KDA. Hook, he's so close to hitting. How did it not hit? Quite honestly, we've seen stranger ones land from Nautilus before. But on that occasion, maybe Riot has blessed Lemus.
I think Riot might have blessed Draco there, because if that hook did land, he would have been thrown onto Lemus, 4 members in the room from Ground Zero, whereas he only had Destiny in his pocket, and then Destiny does not have the damage to be able to take down Lemus. So very lucky for Dracu that one did miss, and surprising that it did go out to begin with, because there was just no backup from the members of his team.
Well, this would be the timing then, Tally, because, you know, you look at Lemus, and yes, he's got a lead, but the rest of Antic actually in their 1v1s would be stronger or at least comparable. So maybe this would be the window in which they can say, we're down by 2k, but do you really feel it? The fights themselves certainly don't lend themselves to that possibility. Baron is there, but neither side really willing to take anything. It's just a whole bunch of posturing, clearing out vision, reclaiming land, and advancing that line.
Yeah, this is one of the strengths of Zarya, you know, being able to check out these bushes safely from range, throwing out those seedlings, doing such a good jump. But the engage is coming out, Skimmy.
Dracu's gone a little bit too early. Raze wasn't there. The Solar Flare lands, and the Zyra plant knocks up two. Can they find one? Tien gets knocked away. It's a helping hand from the Bomber as they work their way back into the mid lane and say, who is the straggler? Who can we find? The Valkyrie forward, the flash, and the body slam. And just at range again, one order gets weaved on in, and Raze answers back and sends Fighter to the grave for 40 seconds.
And what looked like such a, you know, rushed engage by Antic turns out to be a favorable play for them, because there's just no follow-up threat onto these Antic members, and we get to see the power of the core keep. We see that Fighter, hands on his head, knows that he was completely taking on his fight, but we get to go into the replay, and, you know, this looked like a rush engage because there was the major threats in the core keep, and Zarya were just not ready to follow up this engage from Dracu, but just a lot of disengage from the Zarya, the power of the Stranglethorns. Tien forced to flash out. Kurak can't go in because no one can follow up. You know, such a good job by Zoris landing the multi-man Q to slow everyone down. You know, followed up with that flash onto Fighter. Even though he does use that flash, he falls down. And Lemus, who is so strong, his damage is being absorbed by this absolute fat man in the top lane.
Yeah, Kragus is getting it done, that is to say the least. Thimble winning complete. Rod of Age is there too. Takes an age to take down his robot.
Oh no.
Navy goes, look, I'm getting aggressive. I'm making it happen one more time. That's kill number 4 here for Foreigner on the Zyra. But the brand, that explosion, it's so easy then for Lemus to say, you've done the AoE, I'll lock down the single target, and I'll just take them all on my own. He'll find a second in the cleanup affair, but nearly, very nearly could have been all team.
Skimmy, what was that? That was just that was an int coming out of Antic. They just committed every resource they had, all their flashes to be able to take down Kurak in front of Brand, in front of Ezreal. Look how much damage Schoenfire does with his passive to those teams. Lemus being able to Arcane shift forward into 4 members, and they're still running away. Okay, what is this?
Look, we love ourselves a little bit of Akshan, where you can just infinitely spin around on certain spots. That just, you know, breaks open your DPS window entirely, or run it back again. Initially, it's the pick onto Kurak, but as you say, right into the waiting arms of Schoenfire. He says, oh, 4 members in close combat? Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what Antic was assigned to do here. This engage was just way too aggressive. This isn't a crucial member they need to take down, and blowing so many resources and allowing Lemus and Schoenfire to do so much damage to you for free is such a throw.
It's not a nice one, that is for sure, because what was looking like a way back into this game and clawing at that 1,500 gold deficit now is blown wide open. Yes, it's 8 kills to 8, but it's a 5k lead now for Ground Zero, who continue to push ahead with these towers. It's 3-0 at this stage. The map becomes even easier for them to work around. Tien's not here just yet. He's got the TP and is being forced to try and make it happen right now.
Raze.
But Raze is already out of the fight, burning that flash, disengaging out that true shot barrage. And as Tien rocks on up, he says, you know what? My time here will be a successful one. They found 2, and now we're starting to see the true power of what that early game snowball looked like.
Yeah, and this is just, you know, another engage onto Kurak. Knows that he's walking in. Doesn't matter if he falls down. Doesn't matter what they use on him, because if they use any of these ults, any of these, you know, even wasting auto attacks onto Leona will change this fight dynamic completely. And we see how strong Lemus and Schoenfire are when they're left alone on the backline, when they're able to free hit. Tien, even though his champ isn't too good into the enemy comp, he can find these resets on these load members and completely take over the game.
And that's certainly what he did. Sundered Sky as well as the Eclipse definitely packs a punch at this stage of the game if left to his own devices. You can see there on the tail end of that one, Zorda's tried to cut the wave, or at least prevent this Baron siege which is taking place right now. It's going to be a very successful one at that, and you'd imagine by the end of this one it's going to be a 10k lead that will favour Ground Zero. They've well and truly broken open the base. 1 and now 2 inhibitors taken in the process too. And they've created a little bit of daylight between themselves for sure.
1 minute until the Baron does drop Skimmy, so there is going to be some downtime. But, you know, going into the replay here, we get to see Raze pretty much unable to do anything here. They're going to be the Comeuppets, the Solar Flare, the Ezreal doing so much damage to him, so he's completely forced out of the fight already. And even though Foreign's champ in the Zyra is so good at dealing with this dive, he just cannot find the rest of his team to be able to help him there. And Lemus, without the flash on the side here, Antic still playing aggressive when they are behind, will be able to find his kills.
The luxury is that Tien this time won't have the TP to get into this fight, but it may not be required. They may just win even without their full squad online here. Destiny playing goalkeeper, trying to zone out that flanking Aatrox, but it might be too little too late because one by one they crumble. Antic are falling apart here at the 27-minute mark. And yeah, Baron or not, this is a very strong Ground Zero.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to push out for this last inhibitor. There's going to be triple inhibitors going down towards the Ground Zero side. So have to see if they aren't able to end here, which it looks like they're blustering for the finish here. There's still, 10 seconds left on Foreigner's timer. Might be a bit of a aggression coming out of Ground Zero because this might be a game that they are going to win regardless. So if this is a throw, if this is a window for Antic to get back in the game, the time is now.
Well, let's see what they can do. Once again, it's Kurek that starts the affair all off. It's going to be the retaliation with the Dredge line, dragging them back on in. But then Draku falls on down because the tower drops. And same for his HP as well. Kurek being a phenomenal bait this game, quite honestly. As they will say, triple inhibitors, overrated. We just need to end the game right here and now. If you stack up the clearest wave, you will lose to the passive of the brand. And that is what we're witnessing as they respawn. Their health already down to 50%. You can see a very heroic swing, to say the least, there from Phyto, as he wants to lock them inside that fountain and say, we are padding Arcadia, we are hunting for the win, and we are laying down the law. Lemus with the 4 kills to start off the game, ends it on 9. And it's a 28-minute victory in the end for the boys in green.
Yeah, and just another clean closeout for Ground Zero. The game state looked very even, looked very even favored for Antic in some scenarios based on their comp, but just really well played in these team fights by Ground Zero. Just another rep on the same playstyle that they're having so much success on.
But that's exactly it, right? I mean, it seemed a very controlled and similar style coming from Ground Zero, but a very revitalized, very different style, which is to be expected with these roster swaps, but a chance to see what Antic are working on and what they're looking to utilize as a way to exploit some weaknesses found within GZ. Didn't help them on this occasion, unfortunately. At the break, it's 1-0 to Ground Zero.